What's up, guys, and welcome to Movie Importance Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about it. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, join Movie Emporium, hit the notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and of course, comment below on any videos you watch on my channel. So today I'm going to talk about a movie that a million billion people have seen. It's a movie so popular, so well respected, so beloved that is #1 on the IMDb list over The Godfather, and is a movie that is in a lot of people's top 10s, deservedly, because it's in my top 10. But it's a movie that has sort of a history for me as my childhood growing up. And I'm going to put the description or the video link and the notification description below. It's a video that I did with my grandmother, Eve Lapola, who worked for the Ohio Film Commission, and she is basically responsible for the Shawshank Redemption filming in Ohio. And not only that, but this wooden piece right here that actually says Shawshank Redemption is painted, all that good stuff. She is responsible for making it a historical landmark because the film was brought into Ohio to be filmed. So that famous prison that you see in that movie is thanks to her. I'm not like gloating or anything. I'm just saying that's because of, it's a really cool interview. Watch it or listen to it. It's really interesting to watch. But I also have a poster signed by Frank Darabont. So I have a little bit of history with this movie, and I just wanted to let you guys know kind of like a little bit of history behind why this movie is so special to me. But the movie in general is a story of a character played by Andy Dufresne, who is played by Tim Robbins. And Andy Dufresne is a guy who's basically set up for murder, or he's convicted of murder for the killing of his wife and the man she was cheating on with him with. And so he is sent for life to Shawshank Penitentiary, where he meets a character played by Morgan Freeman, who plays Redding, or Red as he's called in the movie. And they develop a friendship, they develop a bond, and throughout the 19 years of Andy Dufresne's term that he serves before he escapes, they form this brotherly friendship that just will last forever. And we have friends like that, or at least most of us have friends like that, where we develop a bond with someone who we can call or we can depend on, that will always be there for us. But this in the essence is Red's story. This is Morgan Freeman's story from his view. It's seeing through his eyes, seeing through his lens of his life. He's a guy that's been there already 20 years for the murder of somebody who he had murdered in his youth. And he kind of tells the story of the Shawshank Penitentiary as Andy Dufresne stays there. So we see all his cohorts, his friends, we see all the bad people, we see everything from his point of view, even though we're getting Andy Dufresne's character. So it's basically like Andy Dufresne's like the center point of the story. So, but Red is there. He's the guy that will get things for you. He'll like sneak stuff in from the prison. As long as you pay him. And of course, if you like call him out as that person doing it, he'll never talk to you again. But it's weird to see how the character form bonds, and the fact that Morgan Freeman really doesn't respect him in the beginning. He sees a guy that's just like looks like he's stuck up, like a guy he's definitely guilty, and he bets on him to lose, because there's this thing where every new group of people or prisoners come in, they are basically bet on to see who's going to crack first. And William Sadler's character actually bets on the what they call horses or new fish. And of course he wins, and he wins a bunch of cigarettes because that's what they kind of deal in, so on and so forth. And in the process, Morgan Freeman not only loses, but he sees a different way about, Tim Robbins' Andy Dufresne character. And one day, Andy Dufresne asks for a rock hammer, and that's where the friendship slowly begins, and you see the two, lead out. But it's a movie that you don't really see coming. It's a movie you think, oh, this is gonna be about prison, it's gonna be about two people who kind of talk to each other, but it deals with such an emotional level of friendship, of love, of hope, of heartbreak, of people that have done really bad things, but you really kind of get a sense for them because they're like you and me. One slip or one fall or one stupid thing will put you in this perspective. Yes, it is romanticized, but it's romanticized in a way that just feels right. It feels like a blanket when you're watching this, because you really feel like you're with them for that time frame, even though it's only 2.5 hours long and not 19 years. That would be really crazy if it was. And that's what just makes this movie so special, is just to see the energy, see the kinetic, friendship that Andy Dufresne and Red are creating here. And when the movie eventually plays out to where Red is eventually released from prison, he goes find his escaped friend, you just really feel like this bond has gone to a level that can be stronger than Oak. I can't remember which movie that's from, but there's a oh yeah, it was Jerry Maguire, where he says friendship is stronger than Oak. And it's just, that is such a beautiful thing to watch, and that's why this movie is so compelling. Is you got two characters that not only are well written by Frank Darabont and of course Stephen King, who wrote the short story, but there are two characters that just really feel emotionally attached to each other, like they are like kindred spirits in a way, or they are, you know, like that, just that relationship, I guess you can put it as. But we get to see the inner workings of this prison. We see it from the guard side, we see it from the prisoner side, and we get some just really cool moments. You know, we get stuff where Andy Dufresne's trying to build a library to improve people's situations. We see this scene where Andy Dufresne kind of really gets his, you know, bonding moments with the other prisoners that are involved with Red, where he's on top of a roof, they're, you know, repaving the roof, and he basically almost gets thrown off the roof because he's trying to help Chief Hadley, who has inherited a bunch of money that his brother had left because he had died. And because of what, you know, Andy Dufresne does to help out Hadley out, they get a bunch of beers, and, you know, he becomes like almost a martyr for these prisoners and stuff like that. You know, James Whitmore, who plays Brooks Hadlin, he develops a friendship with that, and, you know, it's just really cool. Like scenes like that, you see, like, you know, for instance, when Andy Dufresne gets like really hurt by a character named Boggs, who's part of this group called the Sisters. You see that all the people, like, you know, collect rocks because what Andy Dufresne is really into chess, and he wants something to do with his, you know, time, because in prison, as Red says, is a very slow, meaningless time that you just do work and you really don't have, you know, life. You know, we're out here in the real world, you know, watching TV, or, you know, having work or jobs and families, and this is what prisoners don't get. They get all that taken away from them for what they did, which is deserved, but you know, we're going with this. But it's stuff like that, you know, the laundry scenes, or just the slow moments where just Red and Dufresne are talking with one another about everything. You know, Dufresne ends up developing a relationship with Norton, the warden of the prison, but he's doing like, you know, kind of illegal stuff, because the warden Norton's corrupt and so on and so forth. And you see, there's this really cool scene where they finally get the prison they want built, or the library they want built, and Andy starts talking with Red about what he is doing to help basically the warden cook the books, like fake the numbers and so on and so forth. And that stuff's really powerful. And when we find out, you know, Andy, there's this character played by Gil Bellows, and Gil Bellows is that prisoner that just comes in, and he's like the cocky, sure fellow guy. And then he has a story that once Red talks to him about possibly Andy Dufresne being innocent, which is really crazy because you are quote unquote thinking Andy is bull crappy and so on and so forth. And it's a really powerful scene because once Gil Bella's character is murdered, Andy Dufresne sets in motion the end of the movie, which is him escaping. Stuff like that, you know, just in small tense moments that we see of Andy Dufresne and Red, and just the way the prison life works is really fascinating to watch. And on top of that, on top of the two main leads, which the story is mostly focused on, you get a great group of prisoner characters, which are played by the likes of William Sadler, Larry Brandenburg, Neil Giuntoli, Brian Libby, David Proval, and Joseph Ragno. They're in the movie. They're not like the central focus of the movie, but when they're in there and you see how close they are to Red, and how Red just kind of takes care of them like a fatherly figure, they're really fun characters. Especially, you know, William Sadler's character, who's the most used in the movie out of all the main prisoner cast. But it's like almost like a friendship, almost like a fellowship, if you could put it, of these characters who are in prison for a bad thing, but you really get this like camaraderie of the characters, which is really fun. Yeah, you're getting Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins as the main leads, but these characters are just so fascinating to watch. They have so much emotion to them. You know, James Whitmore, like I said, who plays Brooks Hadlin, gets like the most emotional arc, because once he's released from prison, and he's been in prison for 70 so years or whatever, he can't handle it, and of course he kills himself, which is really emotionally to watch. And you can see the prisoners, the main prisoners, really feel for it. They really just get a sense of prison keeps you in, and kind of takes your soul, kind of takes your heart, and then you become what is called institutionalized, as they call it in the movie, where you just become an accepting of the nature of the world you live in. And then when you're put into a scenario like Brooks Hadlin is, and of course Morgan Freeman, really kind of just, you really understand that, you know, sometimes people can't handle a situation that is more than their worth, I guess you could say. But with that said, we'll move on to the other characters in the movie. We got, Bob Gutton, who plays Warden Norton. And like I said, the Warden is a guy who I consider one of the best characters in the movie outside of the main two actors. And he is chewing up scenery in his movie like it's no going out of style. His corruption knows no bounds. It's a character that is using the prisoners for his own gain. He's almost like he's becoming a politician in a way. He is like being bribed. He's taking bribes. He is like using his prisoners in different ways to kind of, appease everyone. And it's just a despicable act of nature of what he does. He allows Chief Hadley, who is the prisoner of the guards, played by Clancy Brown, to basically do whatever he wants. Hadley just kills like 2 people in this movie, or actually he probably killed more than that. You just don't see all of them. But, Warden kind of looks the other way. He uses the Bible as kind of a front for, oh, if you read the Bible, your heart and your soul will be free. And what he's basically doing is corrupt and despicable and just not good. And when he finally gets his comeuppance at the very end, when like I say, I like how the center point is Andy Dufresne escaping, because he has basically stolen the books from Warden Norton by hiding them and like taking some of his suits, and he delivers the cooked books to the newspaper, or at least mails them to him. And he is found guilty. He's going to be arrested. And what does he do? As he is throughout the movie, a coward. He shoots himself, kills himself, and he is out of the story. And you just can kind of see that character. You see a guy that took advantage of the system, and he was able to be used by a prisoner who outsmarted him. There's no way Andy Dufresne should have been allowed to do what he does, because he's a smart guy. But because of how corrupt and how stupid, Warden was, the Warden Norton character, it's beautiful to watch his downfall. But I love Bob Gutton in this movie. I think he's fantastic. I think he's one of the best things I've seen in this movie. He is the reason this movie is just as compelling as it is, because of how despicable he really is. But on the other side, we get Clancy Brown, who you might remember from stuff like, I think he was in Highlander 2, and of course he plays Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants. But this guy is so disturbing and so disgusting to watch. He's a guy, like I said, has killed 2 people and probably killed more. And he is corrupt. He is probably given bribes, but he is a character you just cannot not watch. He is so good. Clancy Brown just envelops this character. It's so fascinating to watch him just do these despicable deeds, because you want to like just punch him in the face. You just want to murder him, just because how despicable he really is, how he talks to people, how he acts, how he almost kills Andy Dufresne. These types of people are just people that take advantage of the system like Norton does. And it shows how these guys lasted 20 years is beyond me, because, there's no, I guess because Andy Dufresne made him last so long with what he was doing and what he was willing to do, that it just shows you that people are willing to do whatever it takes to abuse the system. And eventually they get caught. And when you see, Hadley at the very end get caught and taken off the prison, it just feels so cathartic, because you're so tense through it watching people like him. But like I said, I give credit to Bob Gutton and Clancy Brown. I think Bob Gutton should have gotten an Oscar nomination for this role, and he didn't, which is kind of sad. But he's so good in this movie. Clancy Brown is so good in this movie. They're like Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. They aren't all on different levels that worked in this movie. But that's the basic storyline. It's Andy Dufresne going to prison and escaping from prison and gaining a friend. And I don't really want to go through the plot, because we know the plot. I mean, that's as much as I'm going into it. But I really want to talk about the look and feel of this movie. Like I said, we got the Shawshank Penitentiary, which is the Mansfield Reformatory Prison, whatever you want to call it. It's a prison that is very unique, because I think it was made in the 1800s or something like that. It looks like an 1800s prison. It has like the feel of like a French style prison or an Italian style prison, something you saw like in Count of Monte Cristo or something like that. And it just has a weird look to it. It almost feels like a dark, brooding, disturbing place to be. And prisons are like that in general, so that's not what I'm saying. It has this like authoritarian look to it, which is really fascinating to watch. When there's that pan over the very beginning of the movie, and you see kind of the whole prison with the prisoners kind of leaning towards the bus that's coming in. There's just really like some kind of dark medieval look, like I said, authoritarian look to it that just almost feels like beautiful to look at. It's a very beautiful prison, because I went up to it. I've been up to the prison. It's so menacing in what it looks like. You see it when Andy Dufresne's walking up, and you see the pan up shot, which is the motion upwards. And you see that prison, as you see the entrance to that prison, and it's just like so gorgeous to look at. And it gives it like a menacing feel, but it feels like something has history to it, which is really fascinating. And that's all in part to people like Roger Deakins, who is the DP or is the cinematographer who, films the movie, and Frank Darabont for, his selection of shots, because the director and the cinematographer work on what they need and what they want to have the prison look like. So the looks and feels that they're giving this movie is just fascinating. Roger Deakins is one of the most hardworking, professional, fantastic cinematographers I've ever seen do movies, and it's just like it's so good to watch. It's so like the shots of like just the close-ups on the characters, and how the scene where the prisoners are listening to that song that Andy Dufresne plays when he locks himself in the Warden Norton's office, and you just see them like how they look and how they go through like the different parts of the prison, and just what how gray it is, how like muddy it is. It really feels like just a very damp and dirty and dark movie because of just the shot takes, the use of like the lighting and so on and so forth. I almost feel like they use a lot of natural lighting, at least outside, and that's what makes it so gorgeous. But like I said, it's a Frank Darabont movie. It really feels like it. He uses a lot of slow movements, a lot of shots that are not very steady. It's very interesting how quiet and how interesting and how just level the movie is. There's not a lot of, like I said, not a lot of movement in the movie. It's a lot of people just focus on people, and you let the people act and let them breathe and let them just do their style. And I like that about what this movie is doing. I like the fact that Frank Darabont is willing to just kind of let it be. You see in the Green Mile as well, is just how cool it really looks. And that's just all part of what he does. That's why Frank Darabont's one of the great directors of the last 20th century, or last 20 years or whatever. And then, of course, you got Thomas Newman's score, who is a very well-respected, composer. He has a very Irish feel to his music, a very, like, cadence and rhythm. If you've ever listened to, like, Finding Dory or, like, the movie I did for Rhythm Perdition, you kind of get a sense of how he wants to have emotion. And it's really kind of just like it's not a powerful score, but it's a score that is just kind of memorable for its beats, its iconic, themes, and it kind of just ekes into your soul, kind of ekes into your body, and just how movable it is, how emotionally it is, and what it's doing. It's a fantastic thing what he does, how he can create emotion through scores. And I say this about a lot of composers. You can't have a lot of times have good movies without great scores. That's why Star Wars' score is so famous, or Indiana Jones' score is so famous, or I keep naming John Williams, but Road to Perdition, or Finding Nemo, or something like that. It's just a really, you have to have emotion in your scores. It just doesn't work. But with that said, there's just a lot of great moments in here. You've seen it, I've seen it. It's just a lot of stuff that just really feels authentic to its time and era. It's fascinating also, and I'll leave it with this. It's a movie that does a lot of things and says a lot of things, but it does it so slowly. So it's 2 hours and 30 minutes, but you just really feel like you're in the prison, you're with them. When you finally go into that shot where you see Andy Dufresne going into the prison first time, it really, really feels like you're there for 19 years. I'll give you a fact. 19 is a famous number in Stephen King's universe of The Dark Tower, or any of his movies or books or whatever, which I think is fascinating. It also takes place outside of Castle Rock, which is really funny because Stand By Me, which is another non-horror film, takes place in Castle Rock. So I thought that was kind of cool. But like I said, when you think of this movie, comment below and tell me what you think. But when you see this movie, what does it make you feel? How does it make you react? Does it make you feel sad? Does it make you feel emotional? Does it make you feel happy? Do you like what he is doing here? Outside of the characters themselves, you can tell me what your favorite character is, that's fine. But just tell me what makes this movie so special for you. Like I said, it's the emotional impact of the movie, it's the characters and how they're written, it's how the cinematography is done. And it's a movie that just takes a lot of time to get where it's going, but it does it so well in its writing that you don't feel the time, which is very interesting in its aspects, I guess you could say. So comment below and tell me what you think of this movie in general. But that'll do it. That is my take on the Shawshank Redemption. Happy 25th anniversary. It's crazy it's been that long, but that'll do it. Like I always say, hit the subscribe button below to find out what's, join Movie Emporium. Hit the notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. And of course, comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. Otherwise, see you guys on the next video. Peace out. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these 2 videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.